Okay, we are live on Facebook, on YouTube, and finally, LinkedIn got a clue. We've got more than 3,000 people participating in our live Zoom free sessions, and finally LinkedIn went, okay, maybe there's some value to what you all are putting out, and we'll let you do this on LinkedIn as well. So if you're wherever you're at, YouTube, or on Facebook, or now on LinkedIn Live. Glad to have you in here. If we've never had the chance to meet before, my name is Russ Hill. I work as a senior partner at Partners in Leadership. Our firm's been around for more than 3 decades, helping leaders manage their culture to accelerate the results they've got to deliver. You can find out more about our firm at partnersinleadership.com. What I want to share with you today, I thought, why not go live this evening? I'm on the Pacific Coast, in Arizona is where I live. I thought, why not go live and share some of what we shared with our audience earlier today on Zoom, and that we got tons of good feedback out. We got a ton of good feedback on, and perhaps you'll find some value on this as well. So the topic, as you can see on the screen with me, is creating a culture of listening. So you might ask, well, why listening? Why is that an important thing for us to be discussing right now, right? Why that topic? Well, 3 reasons really. The first one is, ever since COVID-19 started, and it has radically affected so many of our teams, right? To where we're having to lead now in a virtual environment. Our employees are dispersed. And so that makes it harder to create a culture of listening when we're not face to face and we're not running into people in the break room or in the hallway or in a cubicle or in an in-person meeting. So that makes listening harder, right? Number 2, why talk about listening now? Have you paid any attention to what's happened on the streets of America over the last few weeks? There are a significant number of people who don't feel like anyone's listening to them, or that their voice doesn't have as much value as somebody else's. And anybody who thinks, oh, that has to do with the police, that's society, that has nothing to do with our corporation or our company or my leadership, the fact of the matter is you're mistaken. You can't separate those things. And so that's another reason we need to talk about listening, is how do we make sure that everyone feels like their voice is equal, that we're listening to all of them, that their opinions matter. The third reason why this topic would be significant right now would be because for, again, 3 decades as a firm, we've been teaching leaders about the importance of listening. No culture can have strength. No culture can be strong if the leaders aren't skilled and intentional about creating a belief where they're listening to other people. So that's why listening right now. And this question, this is what we asked everybody that was participating, the hundreds that were with us on Zoom earlier today. We asked this question, which is, when people don't feel heard, how does that impact their team? So just think about that for a second. When people on your team, the team you lead or the team that you're a member of, when they don't feel heard, how does that impact them, right? There are lots of responses that would be accurate around that. They're not as engaged. They don't invest their full energy. You might get their hands and their feet, but you don't get their hearts and their minds. They clock in, they clock out. When we don't feel heard, we don't come with our full self to work, right? And so it impacts engagement, it impacts ownership, it impacts accountability, it impacts the results we're producing. Lots of different impacts when people don't feel heard. So those of you, some of you are clients of ours or have had exposure to our models and tools and process in managing culture before. This is one of the core models we use that you're seeing on the screen. It's called the results pyramid. And the way this model, the quick way to explain this model is it uncovers, it helps us understand why people do what they do. It helps us understand why people think the way they do and the way they act the way they do. So let me walk you through it real quick. Real simple, right? Pyramid with 4 words on it. The experiences that we have lead to the beliefs that we hold. And the beliefs that we hold are driving the actions that we're taking. The actions we take get us the result that we deliver, right? The outcomes. So here's the reality of this, of how the workplace functions. When we're not getting the result that we want or need, so often we as leaders, we go to that action layer. That's why there's a plane there in the pyramid. We split the pyramid in half and we start just working that action layer. So if you don't get the result you want, work the action layer. Keep telling people what to do. Send out another email. Make sure that they heard what you told them to do. Maybe copy more people on the email. They must not have heard me if they're not doing what I need them to do. The reality is, if you look at the bottom two layers of the pyramid, the actions that people are taking, your team, the customer, that other department, whomever it might be, the actions those people are taking are driven by the beliefs that they hold about you as their leader, about the department that you lead, about the product you're producing for the customer. Those beliefs are driving their actions. So how do you change a belief that's not working for you? Let's say it's a belief that a customer holds, or it's a belief that a member of your team holds, and it's not working for you. It's holding that person back, or holding the team back, or the organization back. Well, as the model suggests, you have to create a different experience, right? Create a different experience if you want people to hold a different belief. So when you look at the results pyramid, it leads to this question on the topic of listening. Well, if you're going to try to create a culture of listening on your team or in your organization, how do you uncover the beliefs that are held on your team? And the answer to that is by listening, right? Another word for that is feedback. You go out and you seek feedback. That's how you uncover the beliefs that exist on your team. That's how you create an experience that causes people to go, oh, he or she, they are really good at listening. So that leads to a question. We posed this in our session on Zoom earlier today, where we had hundreds of people participating. It was interesting to get them responding to this in the live chat. The question we asked was, why do people have negative emotions? So many of us, when we see that word feedback, we have negative emotions around that word. And why is that? The reason is, typically when somebody says to me, hey, Russ, I've got some feedback for you, I think, oh no, has HR been invited to that meeting? Is it on Friday at 4:00? What have I done wrong? Did I forget to follow up on something? Did we not get that project done on time? Most of us, our experience around feedback is negative, because people tell us they want to give it to us whenever something has gone wrong. So we want to introduce you to my colleagues and I were on this live, what we call a live online, with clients and others earlier today. We do them every Tuesday at 1:00 Eastern, 10:00 Pacific. I need to post on my different profiles. We're live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook right now, and we need to put some more links out to let people know how to register for that free live online that we do every week with more than 3,000 leaders from around the world, Iceland to Ireland to Singapore to across the U.S. participating in that. So it's really interesting to hear the input of different leaders. It's just 30 minutes long, but we asked this question about why do people have negative emotions, and it's because of our experiences around it. So let me introduce you to a model that we've been teaching as a firm for a lot of years to our clients as we help them manage their culture to accelerate results. And the model is around feedback. And there are lots of different models on feedback, right? In fact, I'm going to make this full screen for just a second because it's important that that you be able to see this. And by the way, I'm seeing your comments from YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn coming in. I see you, Chris, Jamal, Delia. Well, I can't get to all the comments. So I see, I just want you to know that I know you're out there. Appreciate you tuning in. So here's the feedback model. This is based on a ton of experience on what's the best way to seek feedback and to give feedback. So the person who is seeking feedback, the question we would propose to you that is most effective in asking for feedback is this one. What feedback do you have for me? And the reason we like that question is because it implies what? It implies that they have feedback. If you ask someone, do you have any feedback for me? They go, no, I'm good. Just keep doing what you're doing, Russ. They tend to opt out of that. But when you ask them, what feedback do you have for me? Then you tend to get it. So if you're asked that question, how do you respond to it? how do you provide feedback to other people and make it real, not just say things that are half true, right? So what we would suggest to you is the first way to do that is to start with appreciative. Appreciative feedback is built around this idea that we water what we want to grow, right? And so appreciative feedback sounds like, well, keep doing this, or I appreciate when you're doing that. And you're watering what you want to grow. And then you move from appreciative feedback over to constructive feedback. And notice the word there, you all, is not criticism. We don't give criticism to anyone we intend to build up. In fact, we criticize those that we intend to injure or to tear down. That's who we criticize. And so you're not giving, so often I read this in coaching literature or business books or whatever, how you deliver criticism. Well, you shouldn't be delivering criticism unless you want to tear someone down and injure them. And if you're trying to do that with a coworker or somebody you work with, that's wrong, right? So the proper phrase, or more effective phrase in our view as a firm, is constructive feedback. If you think for a minute about who do you give the most constructive feedback to in your life, who is that? It's your spouse, right? It's your partner. It's your kids. It's your family. It's the people that you love and care about the most. So when you're giving me constructive feedback, that is evidence to me, you all, that you're actually invested in me. You're trying to help me grow. And so constructive feedback is not criticism. It's building people up. It sounds like this. Hey, you might consider doing more of that, or it's really effective or helps the team when you do this or you do that. You might consider doing more of it. That doesn't leave me feeling like, wow, Russ was so critical of me. So the person seeking feedback asks, what feedback do you have for me? You start by providing appreciative feedback. Then you move to constructive feedback. And then the person who received the feedback, in our 30 years of working with organizations on culture, what we found is the best response when you receive feedback, the most effective response is simply this, what you're seeing on the screen. Thank you. Thanks for the feedback. Now, why would that be an effective response, you all? I'm seeing your comments come in on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube right now as we're live. And yeah, it doesn't have judgment. You're right. There's no judgment in that. It allows me space to process the feedback that you've given to me, because I need to think about it. And what tends to shut down listening and open communication in a culture is when someone gives feedback to someone else and we respond with, yeah, but, right? Yeah, but you don't know what I'm working on. You don't know how busy I am. Oh, you don't know the email I got from that other department or our boss. So that we start justifying the feedback, the constructive feedback we've just gotten, which creates an experience for the other person that, Russ doesn't listen. You might as well not even give him the feedback. He's going to excuse himself. He's going to come up with a reason for why he's doing it the way he's doing it. And so the most effective response to feedback in our experience as a firm is just to simply say, thank you for the feedback. So that's the model, you all, that we teach to our clients around feedback. We do a ton of work on this model. Nothing impacts the culture of a team more than a leader and teammates who actively, intentionally, regularly seek the feedback of other people, right? And so let me show you one last thing before we wrap up this our first LinkedIn Live. And we've been doing regular lives on Facebook and YouTube. And so we're glad to have those of you that are on over there. So we were working with let me put this full screen again. We were working with an engineer years ago, and we were teaching the feedback model I just showed you. And he said, I've created a filter system for the feedback that I received. We're like, oh, interesting. Can you show it to us? He said, yeah, here's how it works. When I get feedback, I ask the question around that feedback, is it accurate or not? Then I filter it again and I ask, well, is there a basis for this feedback that the person has given me? Then the third question I ask is it pertinent or not? And finally I ask, well, are they right or wrong? And you can imagine when someone's filtering your feedback like that. In fact, we asked a question to this engineer. We said, well, how much feedback do you get? And he says, well, I used to receive a lot of feedback, but now I'm actually not getting that much. Well, that's because he's not acting on any of the feedback he's receiving. He's filtering it out and excusing himself, right? And so the right or most effective response when we receive feedback really is thanks for the feedback. And then in our minds, instead of filtering or being defensive about the feedback, it's more effective to ask this question. Is that belief that that person just shared with me, is that a belief that I want them to hold or not? Because when people are sharing feedback with us, what they're sharing is their belief. It's not right or wrong. It's their belief based off of what? Their experience with us. I wish that I had realized that like so many years before I joined our firm, because I've spent so much energy and so much time in my personal and professional relationships through the years trying to convince people their beliefs are wrong. No, I'm not like that. No, our department isn't that way. No, not at all. No, that's not the kind of husband I am. That's not the kind of dad I am. No, I've spent so much energy on that. It doesn't work, right? Their belief is based off experiences they've had with who? Us. And so when we're listening, when we create a culture of listening, we realize the beliefs that the members of our team hold are not right or wrong. They just are. I started this live talking earlier, you all, about, the people in society. We've seen so many of them on the streets in recent weeks, frustrated by the fact that they feel like they're not being listened to. And we were having a dinner conversation. I've got 3 teenagers, 4 kids and 3 teenagers right now at home. And we were having with the protest and with the riots that were going on a few weeks ago, we were talking a lot about race. A white family living in the suburbs of Phoenix, living in a bubble, experiencing white privilege in so many ways. My kids have lived. We've tried to take them to places around the world and let them get out of the bubble and experience life and see different cultures and see different things. But the fact is, they've been raised in a bubble. And so we're having this conversation about race at our dinner table. And I thought, oh, wow, some of the beliefs that my kids hold about different things, we've got to work on this. They're not very good listeners. They're thinking, oh, that belief, again, they're doing what I've done for most of my life, which is, oh, that belief's wrong. It's inaccurate. No, it's based off experiences that person has had. So here's the takeaway, you all. This is what we shared with everybody that was on with us on Zoom earlier today when we did our live online called Leading During Uncertainty that you can see on the screen. This was what we encouraged them to take away from it. And what experience can we create? Can you create immediately? Not eventually, someday, you can kind of dream about it, but maybe never do it. But what experience can you create immediately to build a culture of listening? And hopefully you'll think about the need to seek more feedback. You'll think about the need to be more intentional in there. So I'm reading through the comments, you all, and thank you so much for them. I typically would be way more interactive, but I got dinner with the family in a few minutes. Speaking of the kids, I got to run upstairs. My office is in the basement of our home, but hopefully that was helpful to you. I'm thrilled to finally be able to be on LinkedIn Live. I know I've probably got like 3 people on LinkedIn Live right now, but we'll build that audience up and over the weeks to come. We've got way more engagement over on Zoom. Like I said, well, it doesn't matter to you. Anyway, I'm excited to build up LinkedIn Live and look forward to, if you've got any comments that you want to share as well, you can make those below this video on YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn. Hope that helps everybody. We'll talk to you soon.